Hey, what's going on, everybody? So it's Keith here again at Coding Blind Tech. So in this video, we're going to do about 10 minutes of me writing code, showing you how to navigate character, word, line by line, different tips that we can do in Visual Studio Code to make development faster. And like I said, it's only going to be about 10 minutes because the main goal is just to give you a short, quick video to um, help understand kind of how I move around the screen and write code. And then also, it can give you some beginner tips on how to navigate whenever you're trying to read line by line or word by word, character by character. So, getting started, if you enjoyed this video, please smash that thumbs up button, the like button, please. And if you enjoy videos like this and you want to join the community, please hit that subscribe button. Um, all right, so let's get started. I'm going to go over to Visual Studio Code,
Documentation dot
and I've got a documentation file
blank.
that I've created,
Documentation dot text dash key.
just a text file. And then I've also got a main.py file inside of this directory. So immediately getting started, one of the nice things that you can do is when you have multiple windows open, the one way to navigate those windows is by holding down Control and pressing Tab. So right now we can hold down Control, press Tab.
Quick input list. Main.py 2 of 2.
So we have main.py, which you hear 2 of 2. And now actually while still holding down Control, I haven't let Control go yet. And it's kind of got us in this little uh, task, like tab focus. So we can actually press the left arrow and it doesn't do nothing. And the right arrow doesn't do nothing. It's the up and down arrow. So if we go up,
Documentation dot text 1 of 2.
you hear documentation because it's kind of like a list that you're focused in. And when you let go of the control key, though, what'll happen is it'll actually focus that window. So let's down arrow,
Main.py 2 of 2.
and I'm still holding control, and it goes to main.py. All right, I'm gonna let go of control,
Main landmark. Main.py comma.
and there it goes. Focuses main.py. So that's kind of equivalent to holding down the Alt key and pressing Tab on the Windows task manager to get through there. So, all right. The next thing I want to show you is how you can actually open up your File Explorer. So Control Shift E as an echo will do that.
Files Explorer tree view. Main.py 2 of 2 level 1.
Okay, so this is just another way to see, or this is one way to see your files in your File Explorer. In here, each file you can just go up or down to navigate, and then once you have a folder, you would actually press the right arrow to expand it and the left arrow to close it. So
Documentation.
to show you example,
Main.py 2 of 2 level 1. Documentation.
we can create a folder in here.
OBS 2. OBS.
So I'm actually going to do
Main.py.
that from the command
Mingo 6.
line because it's much quicker because we can do make, so MKDIR, no spaces, and then you space,
Gator.
and then you write your directory name. So we're just going to call it documentation.
K Blackett laptop dash.
And now we can Alt
List item.
Tab back over to our Visual Studio Code. We are still in our File Explorer, I believe, so we can up arrow, or I'm going to press Home to go to the top.
Documentation not selected collapsed 1 of.
And your folders are going to be at they will always be first, and then your files in that directory will be last. So for example, in the root of this directory we have documentation, which is a folder.
Documentation dot text not selected 2 of 3 level 1.
Documentation.txt, you hear it's not selected, that's a file.
Main.py 3 of 3 level 1.
And main.py is a file. So now I'm actually going to move over to the command line, and I said this would be, you know, the main goal here is just to kind of walk you through 10 minutes worth of me writing some code, making a folder, some files, and then you kind of see the commands that I use and what I'm doing. So I'm just going to hold down Alt, press Tab.
Mingo.
That's going to bring me back over to MinGW, my Git Bash window. So I know that I'm in, you know, the root of this directory. Let's listen to what it's called. So I'm a clear. So type clear, press enter.
K Blackett laptop.
I'm going to do pwd to look at my working directory and press enter.
/c/code/sandbox/youtube/keyboard-navigation.
Nice keyboard navigation. So what we want to do to move documentation.txt into the documentation folder is we want to say MV, some as in Mike, M, and then V as in Victor, space,
MV.
and then we want to say the file name, so documentation, but I'm gonna do DO, press tab,
Documentation.
and then it did documentation, but it also knows that there's a documentation folder and a documentation.txt. So we're actually going to put a period now and then do tab again.
Text.
So it does text. We're going to hit space. And then now we can type documentation again.
Documentation.
But I did DO and then press tab because now I want that folder. So I'm just going to press slash. And then we actually want to type what we want to give the name, which in this case, we're going to do documentation. So documentation dot
Documentation.
text. And then we'll press enter.
K Black at laptop dash game.
All right, so if we alt tab back to
Main
VS
dot py.
Code, and we are still in our file explorer now, so I'm just gonna, and remember that key command is shift or control shift E is an echo. So we're gonna press home.
Documentation not selected collapsed one of.
So it says documentation not selected collapsed. Now, one thing here, the way you want to select it is with the space bar, but you don't have to. And I'll show you why you would want to select it in a minute. So if we right arrow,
Expanded.
that will expand this, and we down arrow,
Level 2 documentation dot text not selected
you
one of 1.
hear documentation.txt. Now, I'm going to hit left arrow.
Level 1 documentation not selected expanded 1 of 2.
Now, that will just put your focus kind of back at the top of documentation and it being expanded. You want to hit it left arrow one more time,
Collapsed.
and now it's collapsed. Because I want to show you that documentation no longer exists in the root of our directory we're in, keyboard navigation. It actually exists now inside of the documentation folder only. So I'm a down arrow.
Main.py 2 of 2 level 1.
Yep, you hear main.py 2 of 2. Now, real quick, why does this
Documentation not.
say not selected? So listen to
Main.py
this.
documentation not selected collapsed 1 of 2 level 1.
It says not selected, but why and how come it doesn't actually select it when you up or down or when you focus onto it? Now, that is because if I actually hit the applications key on this folder when it's not selected, it's going to give me actions that I can perform inside of this directory, which means new file, new folder, things like that. Not inside of the documentation directory, but inside of the keyboard navigation directory, the root of our location. So the same place as the documentation directory, the same place as main.py. So we can actually press our applications key
Menu.
and down arrow and listen to our options.
New file dot dot dot. New folder dot dot dot. Reveal in File Explorer Shift plus. Open in integrated terminal 4 of 13.
Now when you hear
Reveal in File Explorer.
reveal in File Explorer, so that means that it actually, the root keyboard navigation, it will open that file location in File Explorer. So actually if I press that, if I press enter on this,
Reveal in File New folder. Reveal in File.
enter,
Files Explorer Tree View. Keyboard dash navigation.
now you hear
Keyboard dash navigation.
keyboard navigation, but we're actually inside of our File Explorer, like if we hit Windows key and then E is an echo. So here we could
Main.py 2
down
of 2.
arrow and up arrow and here documentation and then main.py.
Documentation 1 of 2. Main.py 2 of 2.
See? So I'm going to Alt F4 at the same time out of that.
Main.py dash keyboard.
And we're back in Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to show you, so that's kind of what you can do whenever you're not selected. Now let's say that we do select
Main.py
it.
documentation not selected collapsed 1 of 2 level 1.
So I'm going to select it.
Expanded.
And what it does, it expands it. Now, here's the thing. I want to mention this is something you should
Level
know.
2 level 1 documentation not selected
You hear I hit spacebar, it expanded it, but it did not select it. Remember that because the way you need to select this is either well, the way that I select it is by pressing the enter key on it.
selected collapsed.
See, now it's selected, but it's collapsed. So we can actually, now, even though it's collapsed, but this folder is selected, when we press the applications key now, we're going to get actions that we can do on this folder as well, that do not it only pertains to the root of the documentation folder. So if we press the applications key,
Menu. New file dot dot dot. New folder dot dot dot. Reveal in File Explorer Shift.
you hear the same things. We can reveal it in File Explorer.
Open an integrated terminal 4 of 13.
Open an integrated terminal. So that means that we can actually open up the location, the root location of the documentation folder inside of a terminal that's integrated inside of Visual Studio Code.
Find in folder dot dot dot.
We can find in folder, so we could search. So there's a few more things we could do, but like I said, I don't want to take too
10
long
colon 42 a.m.
to make this video. And the main goal was to make sure that I kind of showed a basic overview of a few things that you can do. And obviously, I'm going to have to add to this video. Um, and I might change my mind on the fly, and we might go, further into it because there's not really a guideline of what I could show you right now that I'm thinking of, but I know that I could base this off of how many minutes we keep going. So, all right, let's actually look at some code now.
Open folder histories.
So we're going to press escape.
Files Explorer.
That's going to close that little
Main.py
menu,
not selected.
and we're going to press enter on main.py.
Main landmark. Main.py comma. Preview editor has line feed selected.
All right,
Line feed.
so let's play around here. So we're going to look at just an if condition, an else if, and an else. And we might look at a for loop, but the main thing is just to show you kind of how I might navigate something. So we're going to import sleep. So we're going to say from all
Suggest list. M.
lowercase space
Main.py
bar.
comma.
So from space and then
Suggest
time
list. Time. IME.
space
Main.
bar
Suggest list.
import
Import.
space
Main.py comma.
bar
Pre.
sleep.
Main.py comma.
All right, so I'm gonna up
From
arrow
time import sleep.
from time import sleep. Now, a couple things. You kept hearing the screen reader kind of repeat because it was pulling up suggestions. So I could have up arrowed or down arrowed to see those. And then also, whenever I first typed from and then pressed space bar, and you heard the bloom, bloom, or the little noise. So that's from something called Sonar Lint. So, and that's a video that I actually will be coming out with soon. So, and I just to give you a basic overview, and it's really nice for bug checking and stuff like that.
From time import sleep.
So from time import sleep,
From time import sleep. Blank. From
we're
time
going to
import
go
sleep.
to the end of this line by pressing end. You can also go to the end of the document by pressing control end, and that's at the same time. I'm going to press enter, and press enter again. So now I'm two um, line returns from where I was at.
Blank. From time import sleep.
Yep, see?
Blank. Blank.
So what I'm going to do now is we're going to set a couple variables. So we're going to do a name variable and an age variable. Our name variable will be a string and our age variable will be an integer. So we're going to say name
Suggest list. Name.
equals
Suggest
quotation
list.
mark
Documentation backslash com.
Keith. And then what's happening here is VS Code will actually finish the quotation for you. It does it with parentheses, it does it with curly braces, brackets. So that's very nice. So we could say name equals Keith,
Blank.
and I'm gonna go to the end of this line with the end key. I'm gonna press enter, and then we're gonna type age
Main.py.
space equals space, and will give us a fancy fake age at 45.
Name equals quote Keith quote.
So we got name equals quote Keith quote
Age equals 45.
age equals 45. Okay.
Name equals quote Keith
And
quote.
let's say that we wanted to change the name. Let's say that instead of one variable for names called and it's just a string called name. Let's say we wanted to create an array of names. Now, let me show you how we can do that. And I'm going to show you, or a list of names, I should say. Now, I want to show you a few editing tricks here One thing to note is that let's say that here's one thing to note. Well, let's go one at a time. So I'm going to show you, I want to change name into a list, and I also want to call it names. So instead of creating something new, we're going to edit what we got. To do that, I'm going to press the 8 key above the 5 on my numpad to read the current line. You can also hold down the caps lock key and press tab if you're on a laptop,
Main.py, comma. Preview editor focused has autocomplete multi-line name equals quote Keith quote.
and that'll show you where your focus is. So I'm going to go to the beginning of this line with home,
N.
and I'm going to right arrow till I get to till I hear space.
A. M. E. Space.
Now, right now, the cursor is on the right side of the E, and it's on the left side of that space. So if I press backspace, that means I'll delete the E.
E.
Right. Okay. So we want to change this to names. So we already have NAM. We're going to put that E
Suggest list.
back and
Main.py,
press
comma.
S, or what am I thinking? So we're going to put that E back and then we're going to press S. So I did say it right. I don't know why I stopped myself. So now we're going to read our current line.
Names equals quote Keith quote.
And I did that with the 8 on my numpad. So names equals quote Keith quote, but we want to have a list of names. So what a list to create a list in Python, you do that with brackets. So what we can do is instead of going to the beginning of the quote, the first quote, and doing a left bracket, and then going to the end and doing a right bracket, we can actually go to the beginning,
N.
home, okay? So then we can hold down control and press right arrow until we get to the left side of that quote, the first one.
Names equals quote.
Okay, so it only took 2 right arrows and it put me at the beginning of the first quote. Now we can hold down the shift key, press the end key
Quote Keith quote selected.
at the same time. That's going to select quote Keith quote, and you hear it is selected. Now we can actually just hold down the shift key, or not the shift key, sorry. So we just want to put a left bracket, right bracket around this. In VS Code, we can actually just hit left bracket here.
Quote selected. Left bracket unselected.
Now, what you might think that it would have done is just replaced quote Keith quote with a left bracket, but no, it did not. Let's read that current line.
Names equals left bracket quote Keith quote right bracket.
You hear that it actually just surrounded what we selected with the brackets. So you can do this with parentheses. You can do this with quotes. So it's very nice. So now if we go to the end of this line
Line
with
feed.
end,
Quote Keith quote unselected.
left arrow one
Right
time,
bracket.
puts us on the at the beginning of this left bracket. That's where our cursor is. So remember, whatever you hear, usually your cursor is at the beginning of that. Not all the time, but usually.
Quote.
I'm a left arrow again, and now I'm at the beginning of the last quote. Okay, so I don't want to be there. I want to right arrow one time.
Right bracket.
And now I'm between the quote and the right bracket. I want to create 2 more names. So we're going to type a comma, space,
Suggest
quote,
list. Document.
and then we can actually, we can type our name. So we'll just say
Ma-
Sam, and then I'm just going to right arrow one time.
right bracket.
Actually puts me after the quote because when I type the first quote, VS Code does the second quote for us. And then so when I right arrow after typing the name, it actually puts me exactly where I need to be to type my next comma, my next space, and then I can type quote, so
Suggest list.
shift apostrophe to get the quote, and then we can type another name and we'll do
Main.py.
Mary.
Main.py.
And then now if we read our current line,
Names equals left bracket quote Keith quote comma. Quote Sam quote comma. Quote Mary quote right bracket.
all right, so now we have our list of names, and we can go to the end of this
Line
line.
feed.
And then what I like to do is be at the beginning of the line, actually.
N.
And I do that with home, and then I like to down arrow
Age equals 45.
from there. So now we hear age equals 45.
Blank.
And we're going to go to end of this line, and we're going to press enter twice. That's going to give us 2 carriage returns. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to write a for loop that just loops through those list of names. So to write a for loop in Python, we write the word for and then
4,
space, and then we're going to say, um, this is kind of like a variable that we create for this. So we say name for name
name, main.py,
space, and remember that's just a variable that we're creating on the fly to represent each index in the list. Okay, and the index is each name. So for name, and then we type in, so I
suggest list,
in
n,
space,
main.py,
and then we type the name of our list variable, which is names, and then we type a colon, no space,
mess,
just colon,
main.py,
and then press enter.
4 space,
And now you'll hear four space, it indented, but you also heard the little doo-doo. So that means that we just have a block of code that, you always have to have some type of, it has to do something. So it's just letting us know that there's an error here. But if we continue typing, and what we want to do is print out each name. So we're actually going to type print left parenthesis,
int, star values colon, object comma,
and
grab text
then
print
we
left,
can do a formatted string. So we can type F
suggest list,
quote.
main.py,
Now what that's going to do is we can we can concatenate a variable into this string and output it with some words. So the way we would do that is we can put the
the,
we can do
selected, unselected, my,
my
name,
name
is,
is, and then we do a left brace, so shift left bracket, which will give you that left brace, and then we can type name, which is our variable, and then we can do a
name,
right
main.py,
brace,
comma, preview editor has,
and then if we read our current line,
print left paren, f quote, my name is left brace name right brace quote right paren,
see, and it finishes the quote in the right parenthesis for us, and that is called a formatted string in Python. Now, I'm gonna hold down the control key, press S to save this. Now I'm gonna up arrow,
no intent for name and names colon,
and you hear for name and names colon. Now, let's say that this was a massive block of code, but we didn't want to read it because we had already done that. We just wanted to collapse it to get out of the way. What you can do is go to the end of the line to the right side of the colon,
line feed,
and then now you can hold down Shift Control and press the left bracket, or in this case, left brace. And I'm going to up arrow one time,
blank,
and now I'm a down arrow,
for name and names colon,
and you hear the boom. So that means that I've actually collapsed this block of code.
for name and names colon,
And now if I down arrow, so I'm
for name
just
and
going
names
to
colon,
press enter.
4 space, blank, print left, no intent for name and names colon, 4 space, blank,
So we're going to take
blank,
the space
space,
away. And I'm just putting some room underneath it so you can
no
see.
intent blank, 4 space print left paren,
So if I up arrow, you hear the print.
no intent for name and names colon,
And then for name and names, so I'm going to go to the end of the line again.
line feed,
Control Shift left brace or left bracket. And then I'm going to up arrow,
blank,
down arrow.
for name and names colon,
For name and names, you hear the boom. So now I'm a down arrow again.
blank,
And you hear I'm at the bottom of my
blank,
file, because I've actually collapsed this block of code. So now it's hidden, but it lets me know that it is hidden with the sound effect.
blank,
So if I up arrow to it
for name and names colon,
and I go to the end of the line
line
to
feed,
expand it again, I would do Control Shift right bracket, and that would now expand it. So now if I down arrow,
4 space print left paren, f quote, my name is left brace name right brace quote right paren,
there you go. We hear the print. All right, so I think I'm going to end it here, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't make it too long, but I wanted to give enough information for it to be beneficial, to at least one person. So, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. Before we get going, let's run this code real quick, just so you can see it work. So I'm going to save, And if I go over to my terminal,
Mingo 64.
now I'm already in this directory. So if I run Python, I'm going to type Python space
Python.
and then main, M-A, I'm going to press tab,
In.py.
main.py. All right, press enter.
My name is Keith. My name is Sam. My name is Mary. K Black at laptop dash game Jim Mingo
Okay,
64 slash C
so we
slash
get
code
all
slash
of our
sandbox slash
output.
YouTube slash
Now let
keyboard dash
me,
navigation left.
okay. So we get all of our output that we expected, our names in our list, and hopefully I taught you something. Hopefully you learned something with navigation, and I will make sure that I come out with more videos just like this, just showing you how to navigate code, how to read code, and how to comprehend what you're seeing without having to take forever to read through it. So hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.
Main.py. OBS 29.